maabot kahit nasan ka man. Sa gitna ng panubok na panahon, kahatid sila kaakibat ay diskusyon. Sama-sama tayo kahit magkalayo. Sa programang ito, tak ang pagkakato. Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo, Teleradyo, Teleradyo Marcelo. Makinig, manood na sa Teleradyo. Makinig, manood na sa Teleradyo.
A man who seeks knowledge is wise. So as we feed our body, let us feed our mind twice. This is Ma Mildred, and together let us multiply our knowledge as we explore the world of general mathematics. Before we start our new learnings, let us have a quick recap of our previous lessons. So last time, the topic that we have discussed is all about distinguishing rational function, rational equation, and rational inequality. Now let's put that knowledge into a test. For this activity, you have to determine whether the given is a rational function or not. So you just have to type in RF for rational function and NRF for not rational function. So don't forget to write your name and section together with your answers, okay? Are you ready? Let us begin. So this is the first question. Number 1, given the function v of x is equal to 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 all over 3x squared plus 7x plus 2, is that a rational function or not a rational function? Type in your answers. Okay, just type in RF for rational function and NRF for not rational function. Once again, our given is v of x is equal to 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 all over 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. Is that a rational function or not? Okay. Okay, is that RF or NRF? I'm seeing the correct answer. Sabi ni Seth Gaspe, that is RF. Let's see if that is correct. Okay, the correct answer here is RF. This one is a rational function. Very good. Next question. For number 2, given the function g of x is equal to x squared minus 4x minus 5 all over x squared plus 3, is this a rational function or not? Type in RF for rational function and NRF for not a rational function. Number 2, is that RF or NRF? Let me read again the given. Given g of x is equal to x squared minus 4x minus 5 all over x squared plus 3, is that RF or NRF? Okay, I'm seeing correct answer. Sabi ni Angelo Gadiano, that is RF. Let's see. Okay, very good. Number 2 is RF. How about number 3? Given the function h of x equals square root of x plus 2 all over x squared minus 4. Is this RF or NRF? Number 3, is that RF or NRF? The given is h of x is equal to square root of x plus 2 all over x squared minus 4. Okay, sabi ni Mylene Joy Balingasa that number 3 is NRF daw. Let's see if her answer is correct. Okay, very good. That is NRF or not rational function. Next, for number 4, we have the function r of x is equal to 4 all over x squared plus 4 over x minus 3. Is this a rational function or not? So given r of x is equal to 4 over x squared plus 4 divided by x minus 3, is that a rational function or not? Number 4, sabi ni Parilia NG, NRF. Sabi din ni Yuna, NRF daw. Sabi din ni Crystalline, NRF. Okay. For number 4, is that NRF or RF? So may nagsagot ng RF. Sabi ni Andrea, that is RF. So let's see if the correct answer is RF or NRF. For number 4, that is... Okay, number 4 is still RF because it still contains polynomials and our denominator is just a fractional polynomial. Okay, that is a rational function. How about number 5? Okay, given g of x is equal to the square root of quantity x minus 2 all over x plus 1, is this a rational function or not? Number 5, given g of x is equal to the square root of quantity x minus 2 all over x plus 1, is that a rational function or not? Type in RF for rational function and NRF for not rational function. Okay, sabi ni Adeline Santos, NRF daw. Sabi ni Parilia again, NRF. Okay. I'm seeing a bunch of NRF answers. Let's see if what is the correct answer here. For number 5, okay, very good. That is NRF because it involves a radical value of the function, and those functions are not, those values are not function. Okay. Did you get all the answers correctly? How many points did you get, guys? Okay, good job, Delpilarians. You have understood the concept of rational functions. Now, let us proceed with our topic for today. So, in this episode, you should be able to apply the concepts of rational functions to formulate and solve real-life problems with precision and accuracy. So these are our content standards and performance standards for this session. And here are the objectives for today's discussion. At the end of this teleradyo session, you must be able to first represent real-life situations using rational functions. Second, represent rational function through its table of values, graphs, and equation. Third, find the domain and range of rational function. And fourth, determine the intercepts, zeros, and asymptotes of rational functions. So as you progress through this academic journey, these most important learning competencies will be discussed in this lesson. I hope you are in the most convenient and conducive environment in your homes to achieve these objectives for today. So in this lesson, you will learn how to use functions and illustrate the nature of these functions in terms of its elements. To begin with, let us define rational function. Ayan. Rational function is in the form of f of x is equal to p of x over q of x, where the numerator p of x and the denominator q of x are both polynomials, and q of x should not be equal to 0. So why is it that q of x cannot be equal to 0? Do you have any idea? Bakit kaya hindi pwedeng maging equal sa 0 ang ating denominator when we are dealing with rational functions? Type in your answer. So, what will happen to our rational function if our denominator is equal to 0? Okay, very good, Hannah, Nicole, Bernardo. It will be undefined, or the value of our function will be undefined if our denominator is equal to 0. That is why we cannot accept 0 values of denominators. Very good. Okay. So a rational function daw can be illustrated using polynomials, and it can be quadratic, cubic, quartic, and so on. So we've already tackled this during our junior high school. And a polynomial function with a degree of n can be written in the form of p of x is equal to a sub n x raised to n plus a sub n minus 1 x raised to n minus 1 plus a sub n minus 2 x raised to n minus 2 plus so on, and a sub 1 x plus a sub 0. So kung titingnan natin to, this can be very complex to our eyes, right? Parang nakakatakot siyang tingnan. But if you're going to see an example of a polynomial function, you'll see that this one is actually very simple. So let's have an example. An example is p of x is equal to 5x cubed plus 6x plus 7. So di ba parang lagi lang natin tong na-encounter when we are dealing with functions. This one is an example of a polynomial function. Ayan. In our example, you'll see here a sub n as the coefficients, and yung x will be our variable, and its exponent is given by n minus 1, and so on. Okay, so for this example, this is actually a function of degree 3. So how do we know if what degree of function or polynomial function we are dealing with? It is by looking at the leading term. So alin ba yung tinatawag natin na leading term? The leading term is that term which contains the highest exponent of the variable. So in our case here, our variable is x, and the exponents of x are 1 and 3. Since 3 has the highest exponent, so we will recognize the leading term as 5x cubed, and its degree is of degree 3. Okay. If a function has, and another example, we have another example pala. So another example is f of x is equal to 3x squared minus 2x minus 4. So this example is actually very familiar with us. We call this the quadratic function since it has an exponent of degree 2. So yan. We have a note here. It says that if a function has a variable with an exponent that is a fractional integer, then it could not be considered as a rational function. So do you want an example for that? Say, for example, we have the function g of x is equal to 3x raised to 1 half minus 2. So this cannot be considered as a polynomial or rational function because we are going to have here a radical sign, since if the exponent is fractional, we can rewrite it as square root of 3x minus 2. So we are going to find out why this one is not a rational function. Okay, let's move forwards. Again, now that we have refreshed your knowledge about polynomials, we are now ready to tackle more about rational functions. Note that a rational equation or inequality can be solved for all x values that satisfy the equation or inequality. Ayan. However, even though we can solve rational equations and inequalities as what we have discussed last session, in rational functions, we do not usually solve this. So what we do is we express a relationship between two variables such as x and y and can be represented by a table of values or graph. So instead of solving for rational functions, we just represent it using table of values or graphs or even equations. So that's what we do in rational functions. Again, we can solve rational equations and inequalities, but we cannot solve rational functions. We just represent it using table of values, graphs, and equations. Okay. So for you to understand that better, let us have this example. So we have here, example number 1, we are to represent the speed of a runner as a function of the time it takes to run 100 meters in the track. So we all know that the distance formula is d is equal to speed multiplied by time. So we know that in physics, we can get the distance by multiplying the speed by time. But in this case, we are looking for the speed. So the speed can also be solved or obtained by dividing the distance by the time. Ayan. So in our given here, the distance is actually given as 100 meters. Yun yung distance na kailangan i-travel. And then we can let x represent the time it takes to run 100 meters. And s of x will represent the speed. So we can get the function s of x is equal to 100 over x. So we let x represent the time. Okay, so let's try to solve this one. Let's try to represent this rational function. Using table of values, we can get some sample points for our time. So x is the time. Say we have here 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 14, 16, 18, and 20 minutes. So what will be the speed if we traveled at the time of 10 minutes? So we can solve this s of x by simply substituting the value of x in our equation or function. So that will be 100 divided by 10 is 10. Next, if time is 12, the speed will be 8.33. For x equals 14, s of x will be 7.14. And if the time traveled is 16 minutes, s of x will be 6.25 and so on. So, yan. So this one is one of the representations of rational functions using tables of values. Now, we can also represent rational functions using graphs. If you're going to graph these points, we have here x and s of x, which is 10, 10. That will be point A, the intersection of 10 and 10. This will be point A, and 12 8.33 is point B. and so on. So if we are going to plot that, we are going to notice that this function, s of x is equal to 100 over x, shows a smooth curve. So remember that all rational functions shows a smooth curved graph. Ayan. So that is one of the representations of rational functions. Now, to understand further about the nature of rational functions, we must also learn the following terminologies. So first, intercepts, which are also called as zeros. These are the points in a graph where the function crosses x and y axis, also called as the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Ayan. So when we say x-intercept, these are the function. This is where the function crosses the x-axis. It is the point x0. So x-intercept is the value of x when the value of our y is 0. Ayan. So we have a note here. We can find the x-intercept by plugging in 0 value in the y variables on the equation. On the other hand, for the we have an example. So for our example, y is equal to x plus 7 all over x minus 5. The solution will be this one. So sabi dito, to get the x-intercept, we just have to substitute 0 to our y variable. So since this is y, so this will be 0 is equal to x plus 7 all over x minus 5. So solving it further, we will have 0 is equal to x plus 7. Since kapag kinross multiply natin yung denominator, that will be 0. And solving for x, we will have negative 7. So when we write x-intercept, we have to write it in ordered pairs since we are talking about a line here, okay? So the x-intercept is negative, or the point negative 7, 0. Next, for the y-intercept. So y-intercept is where the function crosses the y-axis naman. So it is the point 0y, or the value of y when the x is 0. So in here, we are going to plug in 0 naman for our x variables. Let's have an example for that. Y is equal to x plus 7 over x minus 5. So let's substitute zeros on our y variables. X variables. This will be y is equal to 0 plus 7 all over 0 minus 5. And solving it further, we will have y is equal to negative 7 over 5. And rewriting it in an interval, that will be 0 and negative 7 over 5. So that will be our y-intercept. Okay. Next, another terminology that we are going to encounter here is the term asymptote. So we have the vertical and the horizontal asymptote. When we say vertical asymptote, these are the values of x in the function that makes the function illegal or undefined. The values that are not in the domain. So these are the values of our x variables where the function will be undefined or having denominator as 0. So if that happens, those values are actually not part of our domain or not part of the solution. Ayan. How can we do that? We can find the vertical asymptote by simply equating the denominator to 0 and solving for the value of x. Okay, let's have an example. So we have the function f of x is equal to negative 5x all over x squared plus 2x minus 3. Ayan. So taking our denominator and equating it to 0, we will have x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. And solving for x, we have to get the prime factors of this polynomial. So we will have x minus 1 times x plus 3. And solving further for the values of x, we have to equate each factor with 0. So we will have x minus 1 is equal to 0. That will be x is equal to 1. And another value of x is x plus 3 is equal to 0, which is x is equal to 3. Meaning to say we have here two vertical asymptotes, which are x is equal to 1 and x is equal to negative 3. Okay, so for the horizontal asymptote, we have to apply the following rule when we are answering or looking for the horizontal asymptote. You have to take note of this, guys. Get your pens and papers. Okay, rule number 1. If the denominator's polynomial degree is larger than the polynomial degree of the numerator, you have to, okay, so the value of the horizontal asymptote will be y is equal to 0. So what does this mean? Ibig sabihin, when the leading term or the exponent of the leading term in our denominator has a larger value than the exponent of the leading term on our numerator, the horizontal asymptote will be 0. So, ganun lang kasimple. For you to understand it better, let's have this example. So, we have f of x is equal to 2x plus 5 all over x squared minus 3 plus 4. So, you will notice here that the leading term in the denominator has a greater exponent than the leading term in the numerator. So, tingnan natin. Ayan. Our leading term in the denominator is x squared, while on the other hand, for the numerator, we have 2x. Since 2 is greater than 1, then our horizontal asymptote will be y is equal to 0. So we don't have to solve here. Since in rule number 1, it is automatically considered that the horizontal asymptote is equal to 0. Okay. That is rule number 1. Now let's move on to rule number 2. So for rule number 2, if the numerator's polynomial degree is equal to the denominator's polynomial degree, we will have the function f of x is equal to ax raised to n all over bx raised to n. Then y is equal to a over b. So, paano yun? Para mas maintindihan natin, let's have an example. For example, we have the function f of x is equal to 3x squared minus 3x plus 4 all over 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. So, you will notice here that their exponents, the exponents of the leading term are the same. Ayan. They are both in quadratic form. So, since they are similar, our answer will be y is equal to 3 over 2. So we just have to divide the coefficient or numerical coefficient of our leading term in the numerator with the numerical coefficient of the leading term of our denominator. So that will be 3 over 2. Okay? So that is rule number 2. Now let's move on to rule number 3. So this time, if the polynomial degree of the numerator is greater than the denominator's polynomial degree, then there is no horizontal asymptote. But we can we can represent the asymptote as an oblique asymptote. So how can we do that? Ayan, let's assess this example first. Given f of x is equal to x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 all over x squared minus 3x plus 4, we can see here that the exponent of the leading term in the numerator is greater than the exponent of the leading term in our numerator. So sabi dito, kapag ganito yung case, we do not have a horizontal asymptote. What we can get is an oblique asymptote. So how can we do that? We can solve for the oblique asymptote actually by performing long division. Okay. So naalala niyo po ba yung long division method? Sige, let's recall that by performing this one. So we will divide x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 with our denominator or divisor, which is x squared minus 3x plus 4. So to do that, we are going to divide the first term with our first term in the divisor. So that will be x cubed divided by x squared is x. Multiplying our quotient with the divisor, we will have x cubed minus x times negative 3x is negative 3x squared. X times 4 is positive 4x all over. Ayan. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon is subtraction. Parang normal division nga lang to. Kaya lang, we are dealing with variables din. So, remember when you are subtracting polynomials, you have to distribute the sign inside the parentheses. So, this will be negative, positive, and negative. So, we can cancel this since x minus 3 plus negative x minus 3 is 0. So this will be 2x squared plus 3x squared is 5x squared. Negative 3x plus negative 4x is negative 7x. And magiging addition na to. And we have to bring down the following term. So that will be positive 5. Now let's perform again division. So we will divide the first term here with our first term in the divisor. That will be 5x squared divided by x squared is positive 5. Then multiply our quotient to the divisor. That will be 5 times 5x squared is 5x squared negative 15x plus 20. So similar procedures. We have to subtract this quotient or product rather. So this will be negative, positive, and negative. And this will be addition na. Cancel this. And then we will have negative 7x plus 15x is 8x. 5 minus 20 is negative 15. So now, is 8x still divisible by x squared? We cannot divide it further since the divisor has a higher degree than our dividend. Therefore, this will be the remainder. But in oblique asymptote, we do not consider remainders. That is why we are going to ignore this and we will get the quotient as our oblique asymptote. So therefore, our oblique asymptote here will be y is equal to x plus 5. Okay. Ayan. So that will be our asymptote. Let's have a recap on our 3 rules. First rule, balikan natin. What is the first rule? If we have if the for the first rule, if the exponent of the denominator is greater than the exponent of the leading term in the numerator, then the horizontal asymptote is equal to 0. For the second rule naman, if the exponents of the leading terms in the numerator and denominator are equal, we have to divide the numerical coefficients of the numerator and denominator, and that will be our horizontal asymptote. And for the third one, if the exponent of the leading term in the denominator is greater than if the exponent of the leading term in the numerator is greater than the leading term exponent of the denominator, so that will be there will be no horizontal asymptote, but we can solve for the oblique asymptote. Ayan. Now, let's move on to domain and range. Medyo marami-raming terminologies ang may encounter natin today. Kanina, intercepts and asymptotes. Now, we have the domain and range. Okay. So, sabi dito, ayan. For the domain and range, we can write this in different ways. The first one is the roster method, and we can also represent domain and range using the set builder notation, and lastly, the interval notation. Now let us learn how we can find the domain. To determine the domain, set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. So the domain is the set of all real numbers except those values that will make the denominator equal to 0. So, ibig sabihin nito, the values of, yung domain kasi natin are the values that our x variable can take. So, meaning to say, all values are valid given that it is from the real number system, except for those values that will make our denominator equal to 0 or will make the rational function undefined. Okay. So for example, we have f of x is equal to 3x plus 2 all over x plus 5. To solve for this, we will have, ayan, anong gagawin daw natin? We have to equate the denominator with 0. So since the domain are those values that will not make the denominator equal to 0, ginagamitan natin siya ng not equal to sign para hindi tayo malito. So, okay. Now, let's solve for the value of x here. Transposing that, we will have x is not equal to -5. And using set builder notation, we can write the domain as the set of all values of x from the real number system or x element of the real number such that x is not equal to -5. Meaning to say, all numbers are acceptable except for -5. So that will be our domain. And next one, we have another example. So f of x is equal to -5x all over x squared plus 2x minus 3. To solve for the domain, we have to equate again the denominator with 0 and then solve for the values of x. So factoring this one, we will have x minus 1 times x plus 3. Solving for the values of x, we will have x minus 1 is equal to 0. So pag-iwalayin lang natin yung prime factors. And then solve for the value of x. So the first value is x is equal to 1. And the second value is x is equal to -3. So walang malilito when we are dealing with domain. Kung ano yung makukuha nating values dito, those are the values that are not acceptable. Or the value should not be equal to those answers. Therefore, we can write the domain here as the set of all values of x element of the real number such that x is not equal to 1 and or not equal to -3. Okay, so that's for the domain. Now let's move on to the range. To determine the range, we have to find the domain of the inverse function. So meron ng another involved na function dito, which is inverse. Ayan. So to get the inverse, we just interchange the x and y variables. pinagpapalit lang natin yung x and y variables. That means that all x variables will be written as y and all y variables will be written as x. And then we solve for y. So here, since the inverse of y is equal to 100 over x is equal to 100 over y, then our range should not be equal to 0. Since if y is equal to 0, this function will be undefined. So to write that in set builder notation, we will have y, or all values of y, element of the real number system such that y is not equal to 0. So that is our range. Ayan. So para mas maintindihan natin yung mga pinag-usapan natin kanina, let's take this example. We have to find the domain and range of the given rational function. Okay. So anong unang natin gagawin dito? Sabi, to get the domain, we have to equate the denominator with 0. So that will be 0 is equal to x plus 2. And then solving for the value of x, we will have x is equal to negative 2. So tinranspose lang natin yung 2 on the other side. Therefore, we can write the domain as set of all values of x, element of the real number system, element of the real number system Ayan. Pasensya na kayo sa aking pen. Siya ay... Ayan. Okay. Let me repeat. The domain will be all values of x that are element of the real number system such that x is not equal to negative 2. Meaning to say all values are acceptable except negative 2. Okay, that will be our domain. And on the other hand, so if you're going to get the value of the range, you have to get first the inverse function. So that will be, sabi natin, to get the inverse function, we have to interchange y and x variables. So all x variables will be written, all y variables will be written as x, and x variables will be written as y, and then we solve for y. Okay. Also, so this will be x is equal to y minus 3 all over y plus 2. And then solve for the value of y. Cross multiply that, we have x times y plus 2 is equal to y minus 3. So, we have to distribute this one. So we will have xy plus 2x is equal to y minus 3. So solving for this equation in terms of y, kailangan ilipat natin lahat ng with y variable on one side. So this will be xy minus y is equal to negative 3 minus 2x. So let's factor out y here. That is the common factor. We will have y is equal to x minus 1 equals negative 3 minus 2x. So to solve for y, we have to divide both sides by x minus 1. Therefore, y will be equal to negative 3 minus 2x all over x minus 1. So this will be our inverse function of the given rational function. Now, ang gagawin daw natin when we have the inverse function na is to get the domain of that inverse function. So gagawin ulit natin to. We are to substitute 0, or we are to equate 0 to our denominator. So that will be x minus 1 is equal to 0. And therefore, x should not be equal to negative 1. So since we are talking about range here, we can actually represent this variable as y. So when we write the range in set builder notation, we are going to take all values of y such that all values of y from the real number system such that y is not equal to negative 1. Okay, so that will be the domain and the range of the given function. Now, for another example, ito naman we are going to take the intercepts, asymptotes, and domain of the given function. So we have here the function f of x is equal to 3x squared minus 8x minus 3 all over 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. Ayan. So, unahin natin yung x-intercept. Ayan, let's find out the x-intercept. As a recap, how do we solve for the x-intercept? What do we do? How can we find the x-intercept? Ayan. Recap lang, kanina, anong sinabi natin or what have we learned? How can we find the x-intercept? What do we do with the y variable? Okay. Okay, very good, Joella. We have to equate the denominator by 0 or we have to equate y. Sorry. Ito pala, si Seth Gaspe. You have to plug in 0 in the y variable. Okay, so to get the x-intercept, we have to let y be equal to 0. That's simple. And then we are going to substitute it here. So since this is a function, you can find y variables here. But we know that the function f of x is also the y. So meaning to say, we can rewrite this as y. Ayan, in that case, this will be our y variable and we can now plug in 0 in our rational function. So that will be 0 is equal to 3x squared minus 8x minus 3 all over 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. So solving this one, cross multiply the denominator. So this will be 0 na because any number multiplied by 0 is 0. So ang matitira is our numerator, which is 0 is equal to 3x squared minus 8x minus 3. And solving for this one, you have to get the factors. What are the prime factors of 3x squared minus 8x minus 3? Okay, type in your answers on our comment box. What are the factors of 3x squared minus 8x minus 3? Ayan. Ano bang factors natin dito? Okay, the prime factors of 3x squared minus 8x minus 3 are 3x plus 1 times x minus 3. So that will be 3x times negative 3x is 9x minus negative 9x plus x is negative 8x and 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Now, we are going to solve for x using these factors. So we are going to equate both factors to 0. So that will be 3x is equal to negative 1. Divide both sides by 3. We are going to have x is equal to negative 1/3. Okay, so we will have here x is equal to negative 1/3. On the other hand, for x minus 3 is equal to 0, the value of x will be positive 3. Meaning to say, we have here two x-intercepts. The first intercept is Ayan. First intercept natin is, so sabi natin kapag x-intercept, the value of y is 0. So the first intercept will be negative 1/3 and 0. And the second intercept will be 3 and 0. So this will be our x-intercepts. On the other hand, to solve for the y-intercept, ganun pa rin naman yung process. But this time, we are going to let x be equal to 0. So that will be, burahin natin to. Ayan. This time, we are going to plug in 0 to our x variables. So we will have y is equal to 3 times 0 squared minus 8 times 0 minus 3 all over 2 times 0 squared plus 7 times 0 minus 4. So, pag minultiply natin yung with 0 variables, this will all be canceled. And then, our y-intercept will be equal to negative 3 divided by negative 4, which is 3/4. So, rewriting that in intercept form, sabi natin, the value of x here is 0 and y will be 3/4. So, this will be our y-intercept. Okay. So, next, yung asymptote naman. By the way, yung asymptote, these are the line on our graph which the graph of the function do not touches. So, ito yung mga iniiwasan ng graph natin. Ayan, let's find out the horizontal asymptote and the vertical asymptote of the given function. For a review, sabi natin kanina, if we have the function f of x is equal to ax raised to n all over bx raised to m. This represents the leading terms of our numerator and denominator. Sabi natin sa rule number 1, if m or the exponent of the leading term in the denominator is greater than n, then our horizontal asymptote will be equal to 0. So this is rule number 1. For rule number 2, if m is equal to n, then we can solve for the value of the horizontal asymptote by dividing the coefficient of the numerator by the coefficient of the denominator. And for number 3, if m is less than n or kapag mas malaki yung, mas mataas yung exponent ng numerator natin on the exponent of the denominator, there is no horizontal asymptote. Pero we can solve for the oblique asymptote. Okay, let's find that out. In our given here, if we are going to assess the leading terms in the numerator and the denominator, we will have 3x squared and 2x squared. So you will see that the exponents are what? They are equal. So since m is equal to n, then the value of our y or the horizontal asymptote will be 3 divided by 2 or 3/2. So that will be our horizontal asymptote. Now, for the vertical asymptote, what do we do when we are solving for the vertical asymptote? So to solve for the vertical asymptote, we are going to equate the denominator with 0. So we will take 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. And then we are going to solve for the values of x. So getting the factors of that polynomial, we will have 2x and factors of negative 4 are positive 4 and negative 2. So let's check. 2x times 4 is 8x minus x is 7x. And negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. So this will be our factors, and then we solve for the value of x by equating each factor to 0. So that will be 2x is equal to 1 divide both sides by 2. Therefore, the x value is 1/2. And on the other side, x plus 4 is equal to 0. So we will have x is equal to -4. So we have here two vertical asymptotes, 1/2 and -4. Okay, next one. Since we are done with the intercepts and the asymptotes, we are going to take the domain of the given function. So, to solve for the domain, ano ulit ang ginagawa natin when we are solving for the domain? Okay, kung napansin nyo, just like what we do with the vertical asymptote, we also do that to solve for the domain. Meaning to say, i-equate lang ulit natin yung denominator with 0. So when we do that, ganito rin yung makukuha nating sagot. X is equal to 1/2 and x is equal to -4. And sulat natin yan. X is equal to 1/2 and x -4. But when we are talking about domain, we know that these values are not included in our solution. So meaning to say, lahat ng values ng x ay acceptable except for these two values. So when we write the domain, we write set of all x values, which are element of the real number system, such that x is not equal to 1/2 or x is not equal to -4. So that will be our domain. Ayan, kung napansin nyo, hindi natin sinama dito yung range. Because when we get the inverse function of this one, mahaba yung magiging process. Parang kailangan na ng calculus to solve that. So we are going to get the domain or the range by simply plotting its graph. So if we use GeoGebra to graph this equation, we will get this graph. And we can see here that the graph or the values that the y variable can take are infinitely many, from the -infinity up to +infinity. So that will be our range. Ibig sabihin, the range contains all elements from the real number system. Okay. So, yon, para mas maintindihan natin how we can apply those concepts in real life situations, let's have this example. So, let me read. Man is turning 18 on December this year. Since it will happen during the COVID-19 pandemic, the whole family decided to make the celebration simple yet memorable. They plan to fill her room with 5 inches and 10 inches metallic balloons. If 2/5, tandaan natin yung mga important details, 2/5 of the room will be filled with 10 inches balloons and the remaining space is for the 5 inches balloons. They will need how many balloons? 250 balloons in total. So if 5 10 inches balloons cost 25 pesos and 75 cents, and 10 5 inches balloons cost 33 pesos and 70 cents, how much will be the total cost of the balloons? So we are going to solve the total amount that they are going to expend in the balloons. So to do that, let us first represent this problem. So let's say x sub 1 is equal to, or let us represent the 10 inches balloons as x sub 1. So this is and the 5 inches balloons as x sub 2. Ayan. And then, let's represent the total cost of all the balloons as f of x. Okay. So, assessing our problem, we know here that the sum of all the balloons is 250 balloons. So we can write that as x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to 250. So if we add down all the balloons, that is 250. And another fact here is 2/5 of the balloons will be filled with the 10 inches balloons. Meaning to say, we can solve for x sub 1 or the 10 inches balloons by getting the 2/5 of 250. Ayan. So, x sub 1 will be equal to how many? 250 times 2 divided by 5 is 100. Okay, so we are going to have 110 inches balloons. From here, we can also solve for x sub 2. So that is by substituting 100 to our total. So that is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to 250. Ayan. So let's substitute x sub 1. That will be 100 plus x sub 2 is equal to 250. Solving for x sub 2, we will have transpose 100 on the other side. So that will be 250 minus 100 is 150. Meaning to say, we have to get 100 pieces of 10 inches balloons and 150 pieces of 5 inches balloons to fill out the room. Now, what we are looking for here is the total cost of all the balloons. So for us to find that out, we have to represent the function. So we know that we can solve for the total cost of all the balloons if we multiply the cost of each 5 inches balloon with with how many pieces we need, and adding that to the product also of each cost of the 10 inches balloons. So let's do that. Ayan, for 5 inches, sabi dito, yung 5 pieces ng 10 inches balloon is costing 25.75 pesos. So meaning to say, ang isang 10-inch balloon is makukuha natin yung value if we divide this cost by 5. So we have to multiply that kung ilan yung 10 inches balloon na kailangan natin, which is represented by x sub 1 plus, okay, the total cost naman nung 5 inches balloon. So we can write that as 33 pesos and 70 centavos divided by 10. And multiplying it with the pieces that we need, which is 150. So let's substitute the values of, wait lang. Isabay natin sa pag-substitute ng x sub 1. Let's substitute the values of x sub 1 and x sub 2. We will have, okay, 25 pesos 0.75 divided by 5 times 100 plus 33 pesos 0.70 centavos divided by 10 all over 150. So simplifying it, we will have 515 here and 505.50 pesos. So since we are looking for the total, we have to add that, and this will give us, okay, 515 plus 505.50 is equal to 1,020 pesos and 50 centavos. So meaning to say, they have to prepare 1,000 pesos and 1,020 pesos and 50 centavos to fill in the room with 5 inches and 10 inches balloons. Okay. So, that's it for our discussion for this morning. Now, let us move on to an activity for you. So now that you have learned the nature of rational functions, let us tickle your mind and put that knowledge into practice. Ayan, the activity that follows will assess how much you have learned and which areas of the discussion need clarification. Ayan, so you are going to find the domain range of the following rational functions. We have here 3 rational functions. Ayan. Take a screenshot of this activity and then you can leave your answers on the comment box. So for now, after you have taken a screenshot of this activity, you can answer it on your own later on. And this is for your assignment. So take a screenshot as well. Ayan. So I hope that you have learned something new this morning. And I believe that this is actually a fruitful discussion with you. Another topic was made easy and fun for you through this teleradio session. Before we end, let me send you my sincere appreciation for your time and participation. So thank you so much for actively participating in our session for today. Remember, when you work hard on something, better experiences and knowledge will be acquired and our learning will continue. Always remember, every problem has a solution. So do not fear in whatever situation you are into. Make it a habit to tune in to Teleradio Marcelo to ensure a fun and exciting day of learning. Thank you to our school principal, Dr. Maria Victoria Civivo, Ma'am Gladys Glo M. Bondok, our ABM Math Research Head, for always being there for us before and during the broadcast. And of course, to Ma'am Joyce Angudoy, our technical director, and to our script writer, Ma'am Jennifer Oliva. Thank you so much, Ma'am, for preparing our script for today. And to my fellow teacher broadcaster, Ma'am Rhea Rose Almoguez. I am Ma'am Mildred and I'll see you on our next broadcast in Teleradio Marcelo, ang telearalan ng bawat malalenyo. God bless everyone! Bye!
Is always at your service. Kaya naman, ang feedback mo, suggestions nyo ay mahalaga sa amin to improve our programs on air and online. Para alam ni teacher yung strengths as well as the things in your mind na mas makatutulong sa mas effective na pagkatuto sa teleradyo. Please take time to send your feedbacks via Teleradyo Mu, which you can access by scanning the QR code on the right or typing the URL provided here, bit.ly/3ORVAY9. One more, this time you follow. bit.ly/3ORVAY9. Kaya send your hashtag TBH o hashtag RT dito sa Teleradyo Mu, kung saan ang feedback mo, suggestions nyo ay mahalaga sa teleradyo. bit.ly/ORV
Makinig, manood, nasa teleradyo. Makinig, manood, nasa teleradyo. Teleradyo, teleradyo Marcelo. Sa gitna ng mapanubok na panahon, magkahatid sigla at kaakibat ay diskusyon. Sama-sama tayo, kahit magkalayo. Sa programang ito, tiyak ang pagkatuto. Teleradyo, teleradyo Marcelo. Teleradyo, teleradyo Marcelo. Teleradyo, teleradyo Marcelo.